I'm Chloe Bennett. I'm 32 years old, and tonight I walked into the Summit Ballroom in Aspen wearing a tailored charcoal suit and a secret that could set my sister's world on fire. The air smelled like bergamot candles and expensive champagne. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over snow-dusted pine trees, but all I could focus on was the pulse in my neck. Quick, frantic. I wasn't sure if it was fear, adrenaline, or both, because tonight wasn't just another industry event. It was the night I'd come face-to-face with Erica, my older sister, my lifelong rival, and the person who unknowingly gave me the fire to change my life. She had no idea I was here as Sierra Tech's new CEO. She still thought I was the screw-up, tech support, the girl who couldn't stick to a job or a plan. But tonight, when her boss introduced me as the woman her firm wanted to partner with, well, let's just say Erica's world was about to tilt. And I didn't need to gloat. I just needed to stand there. Before I can continue my story, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, and what time is it right now in your part of the world? Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Erica always looked perfect. Hair never out of place, voice like buttered velvet GPA, so high it should have come with oxygen masks. At family dinners, she floated. I stumbled. By 10, she was winning academic decathlons. By 12, she had a business plan for a nonprofit. By 15, she'd already skipped a grade. I remember once asking her if she wanted to play Uno. She said she didn't have time for games. I did. I always had time for games, dreams, questions, what-ifs. Our parents. They didn't mean to pick favorites. But when one kid is a walking LinkedIn profile, it kind of happens by accident. I became the free spirit, which is parent code for we're not sure what's going on with her. Every holiday photo told the story, Erica in center frame, and me. Somewhere. The family Christmas card, 1-year Erica, in a tailored red dress holding a puppy. Me, blurry in the background, holding a bowl of dip. I don't say this for pity, just facts. That's how the Bennett house worked. Erica excelled. I existed. But the worst of it, the actual tearing moment, happened on the day of my college graduation. I dropped out once, changed majors 3 times, took almost 6 years to finish my degree. But I did it. And I wanted them to be proud, even just for a minute. Erica had already been out of Northwestern for 4 years, working at Northbridge Capital in Chicago, collecting titles and bonus checks. She sent a card for my graduation, but didn't come. Something about a board meeting. At the post-ceremony dinner, my dad clinked his glass and raised a toast. To Chloe, he said, "We're glad you made it." That was it. No speech, no hug, just, "Glad you made it." Like I'd survived a car wreck. I remember staring at my untouched slice of cake, wondering what it would take to be seen in my own family. Not just as Erica's sister or the one who took the scenic route, but as me, Chloe. That's where this story really begins. With that hollow feeling in my chest, and the quiet promise I made to myself that night, I'm going to do something, even if no one's watching, especially if no one's watching. Erica was 4 years older than me, but it felt like 40. She was the kind of child people bragged about in grocery store lines and Christmas newsletters. My parents didn't just love her, they were in awe of her, which to be fair wasn't hard. She had this gift of making everything look effortless. Straight A's, student government president, full scholarship to Northwestern internships at places with names that sounded like they printed money. Meanwhile, I was messy, creative, late to everything, sensitive in a way that made people uncomfortable. I cried during Pixar trailers and made zines no one read. In school, I was a solid B- student with flashes of brilliance that got swallowed up by missed homework or forgotten test dates. I remember once in high school, I stayed up all night coding a simple photo editing program in Python. I was 15. I showed my mom. She smiled, glanced at it, then turned back to Erica's early admission packet. "That's great, honey," she said. "Maybe you can help Erica build her resume website later." That was always the vibe. My accomplishments were warm-ups for Erica's stage time. Erica wasn't cruel, not then, just indifferent. Like I was background noise she'd grown used to tuning out. She never actively mocked me as a kid. No, that came later. Her superiority matured like wine, growing sharper and more acidic with age. It started to show when I applied to college. I got into the University of Missouri. Nothing fancy, but I was excited. She called me the night I got my acceptance letter and said, "Congrats. Just don't change majors 4 times like Kelly from my floor." She still lives with her parents. Then she giggled, as if that wasn't my biggest fear at the time. I started out in business because that's what everyone in my family respected. Suits, titles, dashboards. But 3 months in, I knew it wasn't me. My brain didn't work in quarterly earnings and budget forecasts. I switched to psychology, then art, then back to business, then finally computer science. Not because I thought I'd be good at it, but because I wanted to be. Every switch came with a little sigh from my dad, a silent glance from my mom, and a voicemail from Erica with just some advice. "You don't want to look unfocused on your resume," she'd say. Or, "You know how competitive the job market is, right?" Or the one that really stuck, "Chloe, not everyone is cut out to lead." By the time I finally walked across the graduation stage at 25, Erica was already a junior vice president at Northbridge Capital, had 2 articles published in Forbes Women in Finance, and had bought a condo in Lincoln Park. She wasn't just the golden child, she was untouchable. And I was still trying to land a job that didn't involve resetting someone's password. You know that feeling when you're standing at a family barbecue and someone asks what you do, and you hesitate, not because you're ashamed of your work, but because you know the room has already judged it. That was me, for years. And every time Erica introduced me at a function or a party, it came with a little smile that said more than the words did. "This is my sister Chloe. She's in IT," she'd say, as if she'd found me on a Craigslist form and decided to bring me along out of pity. But here's the thing about being underestimated for years: it builds a fire. A slow, burning one. And when it finally finds oxygen, it doesn't flicker. It roars. The years after college felt like wading through fog. I floated from job to job, desktop support at a local insurance company, then a stint at a help desk in a hospital system, followed by a startup that collapsed after 8 months because the CEO spent the funding on a VR ping pong simulator no one asked for. Each time I updated my LinkedIn, it felt like erasing the last entry in wet cement and scratching in a new one with a stick. I was building something, I just didn't know what. Or, if it would matter. Erica, of course, had her arc mapped out like a 5-year strategic plan. She called to announce her promotions like wedding engagements. Northbridge just gave me a new title, VP of Strategic Growth, she'd chirp, and I'd force a cheer into my voice while stirring ramen in my studio apartment. I knew the background music of her calls by heart: clinking glasses, murmurs of power, lunches, that confident hum of someone who believed the world was hers by birthright. I lived in a 3rd-floor walk-up in Capitol Hill, Denver. Rent-controlled, no elevator, a radiator that groaned like a dying animal in winter. But it was mine. I had Post-its on the walls with app ideas diagrams drawn on napkins, a whiteboard full of error messages I was trying to fix. It wasn't pretty, but it was mine. The turning point didn't come with fireworks. It came with a broken hard drive. I was temping at a small tech consulting firm. One afternoon, a quiet older guy in a baseball cap and a Patagonia fleece came in clutching a dead laptop like it was a wounded animal. Said it had years of project files he couldn't lose. Most of the team brushed him off. "We'll try, no guarantees." But something about his urgency made me take it personally. I stayed late, ran recovery tools, wrote a custom script to rebuild the corrupted file headers. 4 hours later, I handed him back a working machine and a neatly packaged backup drive. He blinked. "How'd you do that?" I shrugged. "I improvise." He stared at me for a long beat. "You don't think like most people in tech," he said. "That's rare and valuable." His name was Raymond Cole. I didn't know it then, but he'd once been CTO of one of the biggest data firms in the country. Now semi-retired, investing in early-stage startups and consulting when the project felt right. We stayed in touch. Coffee every few weeks turned into longer talks. I showed him some of the code I'd been writing for fun apps that simplified back-end systems for mid-size firms, a dashboard for client-facing analytics, a data sorting algorithm I built just because I was tired of Excel. He never coddled me, never told me I was brilliant, but he listened, asked questions, challenged me to think bigger. "You're playing small because it's safe," he said once. I get it. But Chloe, this world doesn't reward safe. The next time Erica called to say she'd made senior VP, I smiled. Not because I was proud of her, but because for the first time I didn't feel behind. I felt parallel. And that was the scariest and most exhilarating feeling I'd ever known. The call came on a Tuesday night, while I was in the middle of reheating last night's sesame tofu. Chloe Raymond said no preamble. "Breakfast tomorrow, I've got something to run by you." I wiped soy sauce off my laptop, heart quickening for no reason I could name. When Raymond said he had something, it wasn't small talk. I agreed, and spent the night imagining all the ways this could go: new side project, maybe a startup prototype, or worst case, just coffee and eggs with a brilliant retiree. Either way, I wasn't going to miss it. We met at his favorite hole-in-the-wall diner, the kind where the waitresses call you honey, and the coffee tastes like it was brewed in a steel drum. I liked it. No suits, no performative polish. "I'm consulting on something new," he began between bites of hash browns. "A company out of Denver, Sierra Tech. You heard of them?" Barely, I admitted. "Aren't they doing AI-driven data routing or something?" He nodded, impressed. "Most people just blink when I say the word routing." He explained the situation. Sierra Tech had solid tech, but terrible strategy. Their target audience was all wrong, sales were flat, and morale was tanking. They've got about 6 months of runway left before layoffs get real. The board's nervous. I nodded, not quite seeing where I fit into this disaster story. I told them I'd bring in someone to help untangle the mess, Raymond said. Then he slid a folder across the table. "I want that someone to be you." I blinked. "You want me to, what, consult?" "Officially, associate strategist under my umbrella. Unofficially, I want you to observe, identify the holes, and propose a fix." "But I'm not a strategist," I protested. "I'm barely—" "You're a problem solver, one who knows how to speak both tech and business, even if you don't believe that yet. That's exactly what this company needs." I stared at the folder. Inside was a 90-day contract that paid more than I made in a year. I could pay off my credit card, maybe even fix the dent in my car door I kept pretending didn't exist. Still, I hesitated. What if I fail? Raymond leaned in, eyes kind but firm. "Then you'll learn, and you'll have a story to tell. But I don't think you will. You're better than you think you are." I don't know what possessed me to say yes. Maybe it was the years of being told I couldn't lead. Maybe it was the way Erica's voice always wrapped around the word potential, like it was a curse. Maybe I was just tired of waiting. 2 weeks later, I walked into Sierra Tech's downtown office. It occupied 3 floors of a glass-paneled building that looked like a spaceship had crashed into a law firm. Their logo, a stylized rising sun, glowed over the lobby. But inside, the vibe was tense. Desks half empty, conversations, whispered, eyes tired. I was introduced as Raymond's associate, and the room temperature dropped by 2 degrees. Most of the execs barely looked at me. One even asked if I was there to reset their conference room tech. Only Jordan Wells, head of product development, seemed genuinely glad to see me. "God, we need the help," she said under her breath. "We've got a rocket ship and no flight plan." That night, I went home and stared at the folder again. Associate strategist. My name on real letterhead. I didn't know what would come next, but I felt it, the shift, the ignition. I was in the room now. Not because of Erica, not because of family favors, because I said yes. The first few weeks at Sierra Tech were a blur of coffee acronyms and polite resistance. Raymond told me to listen before speaking. You can't fix a machine if you don't know how it's broken. So I observed. I shadowed meetings, read reports no one had touched in months, and spent late nights poring over feedback from clients who liked the product, but couldn't understand what it actually did. The issue wasn't the tech, it was revolutionary, honestly. Their AI could reorganize massive data systems in half the time it took legacy software. But they were pitching to the wrong audience. Enterprise clients with slow decision cycles, bloated bureaucracies, and endless red tape. Meanwhile, mid-sized firms, the sweet spot, were being ignored. I brought it up tentatively during a team huddle. Jordan nodded, but the rest of the execs shifted in their seats like I'd suggested burning down the building. One guy cleared his throat and said, "We've always targeted enterprise. That's the model." Another muttered something about rookie oversimplification. I went home that night, half sure I'd be fired. But Raymond just smiled when I told him, "They won't change because you ask. They'll change when they see numbers." So I gave them numbers. I spent nights building a model, real market analysis, pricing structure, simulations, case studies, projections. I even mocked up a new interface and demoed it for Jordan, who gasped and said, "Why the hell haven't we done this already?" With her support, I asked to present to the board. The night before, I barely slept. My body was wired fingers shaking as I reviewed the slides for the 100th time. I kept hearing Erica's voice in my head. "You don't want to look unfocused. Not everyone is cut out to lead." I almost backed out. Raymond called just after midnight. "You good?" "No," I whispered, pacing the living room. "I'm terrified. I'm just—" "Chloe." "Exactly," he said. "You've done the work. Now show them. And if they don't get it, we'll find someone who will." The next morning, I stood in front of 7 board members and pitched the future of Sierra Tech. A strategic pivot away from giant corporations and towards scalable mid-market firms hungry for agility. I showed them revenue projections, client retention forecasts, how we could rebrand the product to speak the language of firms who needed results, not buzzwords. The chairman, a stiff man with cold eyes, folded his hands. "This is ambitious," he said, as if the word were radioactive. Before I could shrink, Raymond spoke up. "It's also your best shot." The vote wasn't unanimous, but it passed. Barely. I was given a test run, 60 days, a limited product line, a small team led by me. If we could move the needle, they'd revisit full adoption. And so began the most intense 2 months of my life. I worked 16-hour days with Jordan and a handful of believers. We rebuilt sales decks, rewrote pitch scripts, trained reps to speak like humans instead of engineers. We narrowed our message. We talked to mid-tier law firms, regional credit unions, private asset managers, people who didn't have time for theory. They needed clean data and clean results. At the 6-week mark, I opened our analytics dashboard and felt my knees go weak. We'd closed more deals in 45 days than Sierra Tech had in the previous 2 quarters. Revenue was up 38%. Our burn rate had dropped. Prospective partners were calling us. The board called an emergency meeting. The vote to implement my strategy company-wide passed 7-0. And then came the kicker. "We'd like you to stay on," the chairman said. "Not as an associate strategist, as chief strategy officer, full title, full responsibility." I was stunned. I blinked at Raymond, who simply gave me a nod. "Say yes," he mouthed. I did. And just like that, I became someone no one in my family, even me, ever saw coming. I didn't tell anyone. Not Erica, not my parents, not even Tasha, my best friend, until 2 weeks later over overpriced cocktails and truffle fries. She choked on her drink. "Wait, you're the CSO of Sierra Tech." I grinned. "Guess so." "You buried the Lita Bennett." "I know," I said, dragging a fry through aioli. I didn't want to jinx it. That was half the truth. The real reason I didn't tell Erica or my parents was simpler. I wanted this to be mine. Just mine. No family commentary. No sibling comparison analysis. No raised eyebrows asking, "How did you manage that?" And especially no, "Oh wow, good for you," laced with the faintest trace of surprise. For the first time in my adult life, I was building something from scratch. And it was working. So I kept it quiet. Besides, Erica never asked. Her calls came less frequently those days, and when they did, they were usually status updates on her career. "Just closed a $3 million portfolio," she'd say. "My managing director said I'm basically running the team already." She never paused long enough to ask, "What about you?" One day, she casually mentioned Northbridge Capital was eyeing a push into tech. "We're vetting a few potential acquisitions," she said, like she was telling me the weather. I froze. "You're acquiring?" She laughed. "Yeah. These small firms with great tools, but no strategy ripe for picking. You'd love some of these product demos. All heart, no business." I didn't say anything, just nodded into the phone, like I wasn't standing on the very bridge she was planning to cross. When I got off the call, my stomach twisted. Sierra Tech had just made the list. A few days later, the board forwarded me an invitation to an elite TechX Finance Winter Forum in Aspen. An informal pre-negotiation gathering between potential acquisition partners. There would be networking cocktails, keynote talks, a soft vetting space to see if chemistry existed before contracts got serious. Raymond called me after it hit my inbox. "You going?" I hesitated. "Erica will be there. She doesn't know. I'm not sure how to—" "Tell her," he said. "Own it." But I shook my head. "If I tell her now, it'll feel performative, like I'm flaunting. I'd rather let my work speak." Raymond paused, then chuckled. "You've got more spine than you think." When I told Tasha I was going, she screamed, "You're going to show up, boss pin and all, and your sister is going to combust." "I don't want drama," I said. "I just want to be seen." Tasha raised her glass. To the invisible girl, finally stepping into the light. The night before the event, I barely slept. I laid out my outfit with surgical precision, a tailored charcoal suit, soft pinstripe deep blue silk blouse to match Sierra Tech's colors, my hair in a low bun, light makeup, confident but not performative, and the Sierra Tech lapel pin, gold minimal significant. I pinned it like armor. I looked in the mirror and saw someone I didn't recognize at first. Not because she was different, but because she looked like she belonged. I whispered, "You earned this, just like Raymond told me to." Then I put on my coat, walked into the cold night air, and made my way toward the summit. Toward the reckoning! The summit ballroom gleamed with quiet power. Crystal lighting, soft jazz servers, gliding like shadows with trays of oysters and gold-rimmed flutes. The room was full of hedge fund confidence men, in tailored Navy women, in statement heels, all speaking in the coded cadence of deal-making. I kept to the edges, at first sipping sparkling water and scanning for familiar faces. Several executives from Sierra Tech were already here, careful not to reveal my role too early. We'd agreed on subtlety, let them wonder. That was when I spotted her. Erica. She was magnetic, as always surrounded by laughter, and nodding suits dressed in a navy sheath dress that probably cost more than my rent. Her smile could have run for office. Her voice sliced through the room, polished, firm, charming. I hovered by a tall table out of her sightline. My hands were steady. My heart wasn't. "Have you seen the Sierra Tech CEO yet?" a voice behind me asked. "Not yet," someone else replied. "Heard it's a new hire, but they're being weirdly secretive. Probably some tech bro in Allbirds." I bit the inside of my cheek to keep from laughing. And then Erica turned. She spotted me. Her smile froze just enough to be noticeable. Her gaze flicked from my face to my lapel pin, then back again. "Chloe!" she called out with an exaggerated air of surprise that landed like a slap. "Wow! I didn't expect to see you here." I forced a smile. "Likewise." She leaned in for a kiss on the cheek, mandatory sister optics, then turned to the man beside her. "Michael, this is my sister Chloe. She's in IT. Michael Granger, Senior VP of Northbridge Capital, her boss." He extended his hand warmly. "Nice to meet you, Chloe. Are you in Denver Tech?" "She's kind of a wanderer," Erica interjected before I could speak. "She's bounced between a few roles over the years." I smiled thinly. "Still in tech." Erica sipped her drink. "So who invited you tonight? Are you someone's plus one?" Before I could answer, Michael asked, "Have you followed our acquisition strategy much?" "I have," I said calmly. "I think Northbridge is smart to diversify. But integrating financial firms with tech startups can get messy if the cultures don't align." Michael raised an eyebrow. "Exactly. That's our biggest concern. You have insight into that." "She builds prototypes," Erica said, laughing lightly. "She's always been more of a tinkerer than a strategist." Michael didn't laugh. He tilted his head, curiosity flickering. "Where are you working these days, Chloe?" Before I could respond, Erica cut in again, voice a touch too loud. "She's been at a few places. I'd support junior dev, one of those roles where you get to wear headphones all day." There was a flicker across Michael's face then. A tightening. I smiled gently. "Still in headphones. But not quite the same job." Erica didn't register the warning in my tone. Instead, she launched into a story about my college years. The time I changed majors. The year I moved home after getting laid off. She made it sound cute, harmless, like I was a particularly lovable train wreck. People around us started listening. "I always say Chloe's great at fixing things when they're already broken." Erica laughed. "But vision strategy, not exactly her zone." I could feel the old heat rise: embarrassment, rage, humiliation. But this time I didn't flinch. I waited, calm, quiet. Let her dig. Michael's jaw was tight now. I saw him glance down at my lapel pin, then back to my face. "Erica," he said finally, voice calm. "You do realize who you're talking about, don't you?" Erica blinked. "What do you mean?" Michael stepped forward slightly. "That's our host tonight, the CEO of Sierra Tech, the firm we're here to court." The silence was nuclear. Erica's face drained of color. "What?" I turned then. Fully, shoulders square, chin up. The invisible sister standing in full light. "Hi," I said. "Nice to officially welcome you." The world tilted. I could see it happen like watching a wine glass tip in slow motion. Erica's expression faltered, recovered, then collapsed again as the realization set in. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Michael cleared his throat. Chloe Bennett is Sierra Tech's CEO, appointed 6 months ago. A ripple moved through the surrounding cluster of suits and champagne flutes. Heads turned. Conversations paused. I felt the shift like gravity recalibrating. Suddenly, I was no longer Erica's baby sister, with a rotating job title. I was a decision maker, a gatekeeper. Erica blinked rapidly, trying to plug the holes in her dignity. Oh, I was just joking. Sister stuff, you know. She forced a laugh, but it sounded hollow. Chloe and I go way back. That's how sisters work, I replied evenly, though sometimes they leave out important chapters. Michael looked at me with quiet respect. Would you be willing to walk us through Sierra Tech's integration model? I know we weren't scheduled for formal talks until next week, but of course I said, I'd love to. I turned to the others in the group. If anyone's interested, we've developed an adaptive data structuring engine designed for mid-size financial firms. No-code interface scalable integrations, and a 38% bump in client-side retention during our pilot. I watched as interest spread. Someone handed me their card. Someone else jotted a note on their phone. And all the while, Erica stood slightly behind me, still frozen in that liminal space between dominance and displacement. She had underestimated me, not just privately but publicly, loudly, fatally. And now she was watching her narrative shatter in real time. Jordan appeared at my side a few minutes later, having caught the end of the exchange. Smooth, she murmured, pressing a club soda into my hand. Your poker face is terrifying. I exhaled slowly. I wasn't trying to humiliate her. Jordan nodded. You didn't. She did that on her own. The event continued, but the dynamic had irrevocably shifted. Where I'd once hovered on the periphery, people now approached me with purpose. Industry leaders, integration, directors, innovation officers, they all wanted a piece of Sierra Tech's vision. I wasn't pretending to belong anymore. I was being actively invited. A few feet away, Erica stood near the bar, holding a drink like a life preserver. She caught my eye and, to her credit, crossed the room. Can we talk? She asked quietly. Privately? I paused, then shook my head. I think we've said enough for one night. We can catch up another time. She blinked clearly, not used to being shut down. I just didn't know, she said, eyes dropping to the floor. I didn't realize. That I was capable, I asked. Erica didn't answer. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I'd expected humiliation tonight, not vindication. I'd walked into that room hoping to survive. Instead, I'd been handed the mic. And I used it. Later that night, Michael pulled me aside again. That was impressive, he said. Not just your product, but how you handled yourself. Quiet power is a rare thing. I thanked him. We'll be in touch. Back at the hotel, I finally kicked off my heels, peeled out of my suit, and stood barefoot in the bathroom mirror. I looked different. Not because of the makeup or the lighting, because for the first time, I wasn't shrinking. I was standing tall in my own damn name. The morning after Aspen, my phone blew up like it had a death wish. Missed calls, voicemails, one from my dad saying something about a misunderstanding, 2 from my mom, both escalating in pitch, and 1 text from Erica that just said, I messed up. Please. I ignored them all for a few hours, let the silence speak. At work, the Sierra Tech team buzzed like someone had plugged the building into a generator. You broke the internet, Jordan joked. Apparently, word had gotten out. A tech newsletter ran a short feature titled CEO, Shock Sister, and Industry at Aspen Power Event. It was surreal, but it wasn't revenge. I didn't want Erica destroyed. I just wanted the world to stop looking at me through her lens. That was it. That had always been it. By Friday, I called her back. She picked up on the first ring. Chloe, I'm not mad, I said, cutting through the noise. But that can't happen again. A pause. Then I know. We talked for a few minutes. Awkward, careful. She apologized not perfectly, but sincerely enough. Said she'd been arrogant. Said she'd thought she knew me. You didn't ask, I replied. You never did. She agreed. You're right. And then came the dinner invitation. Mom and Dad wanted us both to come home that weekend. They'd heard about Aspen, which probably meant someone's golf buddy was in the room when the drama went down. I hesitated, but Erica said she was going, and for some reason, I agreed. The drive to St. Louis felt heavier than it used to, like I was dragging a younger version of myself across state lines. When I arrived, Mom hugged me a little too tightly, like she wasn't sure if I'd slip through her fingers. Dad gave me a strange pat on the back and avoided eye contact. Dinner was roast chicken and tension, so Dad said eventually, "We hear congratulations are in order." I nodded. "Thank you. You could have told us," Mom added, her voice smaller. 6 months. "I wanted to earn it first," I said. "For myself." Erica sat quietly for once, not filling every silence. I glanced at her. "You want to tell them?" She nodded. I didn't treat Chloe with respect at that event. I embarrassed myself. And her. Mom looked between us confused. "But why?" Dad shook his head. "You girls have always been different." There it was. Not cruel, just revealing. I leaned in. "You didn't mean to pit us against each other. But it happened. Every time you introduced us as Erica our VP and Chloe our creative one, every time you told me to be more like her, it stuck." Silence. Then Erica added, "It wasn't fair to either of us." We talked for over an hour. Not all of it was tidy or graceful, but it was honest. For the first time, we weren't playing roles. We were just people. Before I left, Mom hugged me again and whispered, "I'm proud of you." It didn't fix everything, but it helped. As I drove back to Denver, I realized something I'd spent years trying to prove myself to Erica, to my parents, to the world. But somewhere along the way, I'd started living for me. And that was the shift that changed everything. A week after the dinner, I sat across from Raymond in a coffee shop with creaky floors and burnt espresso. She apologized, I told him, stirring my drink. Genuinely. He sipped his black coffee. "That's not nothing." "No," I agreed, "it's not." Then I slid a folder across the table. He raised an eyebrow. "This isn't your resignation, is it?" I laughed. "No, it's a candidate file." He opened it. Erica Bennett. Under it, recommendation, Chief Operations Officer, Sierra Tech. Raymond whistled low. "You're serious?" "She's qualified," I said. "We need structure systems, someone who can run the operational side, while I focus on strategy and vision. And she knows our potential partners inside and out." He stared at me. "This is the same sister who threw you under the Aspen bus." "Yes," I said. "And also the one who said she was sorry. And the one who, when she's not trying to win a gold medal in condescension, is actually really good at what she does." Raymond set the file down. "You sure this isn't about proving something?" "It's about building something," I said quietly. "If we can keep it professional, we could be unstoppable." He gave me a long look, then nodded. "Then offer it." So I did. I met Erica for lunch at a neutral spot downtown. No name tags, no hierarchy. She opened the offer letter slowly, like it might bite. "You want me to work under you? You'd report to me, yes. But you'd lead your own team. Total autonomy in operations." She blinked. "You trust me." I shrugged. "I trust your skill set, and I believe in second chances. I've had enough of my own." She was quiet for a long time. "Then you're not who I thought you were." "No," I said. "I'm not who I thought I was either." She accepted 3 days later. Bringing Erica into Sierra Tech was complicated. The team was wary. People remembered Aspen. Some whispered about nepotism. But Erica didn't flinch. She worked harder than anyone. She stayed late, asked questions, sat in meetings without dominating. Slowly, people began to see what I saw. She was damn good. We set strict boundaries. No sister talk in boardrooms. No favoritism. Just results. One night, we stayed late working on a quarterly review. I found her staring at a spreadsheet like it had personally offended her. "This role is harder than I thought," she admitted. I smiled. "Welcome to my world." She looked at me, then really looked. "I don't think I ever gave you credit. You've built something extraordinary." "Not alone," I said. She smirked. "Still, I'll need a raise if I'm supposed to keep up with you." We laughed together, not at each other, for maybe the first time since we were kids. 6 months later, Sierra Tech announced a strategic alliance with Northbridge Capital. Not an acquisition, a partnership. Equal power, mutual growth. The headline read, "Sisters Rebuild Tech Giant and Their Bond." It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever is. But it was real, honest, hard-earned. I used to think success would feel like fireworks. Glory, a mic drop. But standing beside Erica in the Sierra Tech lobby as our team toasted the deal, I realized the truth. Success feels like peace. Like standing in your own light and knowing it's not borrowed. Like offering grace not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough not to need revenge. It feels like power without bitterness. It feels like finally becoming the person you were always meant to be. Have you ever been underestimated by someone who was supposed to love you the most? I have. And for years I let that story shape my life. But the truth is, being seen starts with seeing yourself. This journey wasn't about taking down my sister. It was about rising in a space she never thought I could occupy, and choosing growth over ego once I got there. We don't always get to rewrite the past, but we do get to decide what comes next. If this story hit home, tell me in the comments, have you ever been the invisible one? And what helped you reclaim your voice? Like this video, subscribe if you want more real stories like this, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that they're enough. Life doesn't hand you power, you build it, one choice at a time.